City Council on June 29th order. Would you all please rise and recite the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you have your cell phone, please turn them to vibrate. Roll call. Mr. Clark. Not here. Ms. Conley.
Here.
Mr. Rose.
Here.
Mr. Hall. Here. Mr. Hopkins. Here. Mrs. Nixon.
Yes, here.
Mrs. Powell.
Here.
All here.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
since Mr. Clark is not present, do we want to entertain a motion to excuse him or not?
That was my next question.
I apologize.
No problem.
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion to excuse Mr. Hall. Mr. Clark? Mr. Clark.
Me, I can leave.
You're here.
I'll
Sorry.
Is there some
Second.
Mr. Hopkins, second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, sign no. Motion carries to excuse Mr. Clark. Item 3, public comment. The City Council welcomes and encourages the public to speak during the public comment and the public hearing portion of the agenda. However, council policy is to hear the public comment, not to act on the public comment at this time. Concerns brought before the City Council during the public comment portion of the agenda will be referred to the City Manager for action if, after communication with the City Manager, no resolution is reached. The concern will be elevated to the Mayor and then eventually to the Council for action. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda and non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time during the council meeting that citizens are allowed to address the council. Please state your name and address for the record.
No pressure.
No pressure. Good evening.
Joel Frank, 171 3rd Street, Cedar Springs. And I think tonight on the agenda I think you're getting like a heads up about allowing beehives in the city of Cedar Springs. And I'm not positive, but I don't think it's going to be on the agenda until the following meeting in July. But I just ask that you study it. You know, they're really gentle and when managed right, and that, and a lot of progressive cities are allowing bees. You know, Muskegon just did it recently in Ann Arbor, Holland. So, you know, maybe look up some YouTube videos and that, and all I ask is that you study it and give it a fair chance. I can answer any questions that's allowed or not.
Sure, go ahead.
I just wondered how long you've had these.
Like, I've had bees for 4 years.
Okay, in the city?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think about when I moved in here. Memorial weekend.
Okay, so fairly recently then.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
It's about normal when you bring bees out after you've got your queen and...
Well, we had some property in Hesperia, and there I had like 4 hives at one time, and we sold that property. And,
Okay.
you know, before I thought I had proper authorization, and I guess it's been changed or something. So, anyway, you know, if they're not allowed, I'm going to comply and get rid of them. But I would ask that you give it a chance. Maybe look up some videos and that.
Next month it will be on the agenda for a discussion item, because we have a policy that we'll hear it 1 month and then we won't act on it until the following.
I see.
Just for transparency.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Mr.
comment.
Mayor, I'd like to ask a question if possible.
Sure.
Yes.
How many hives do you have? And
What is the purpose?
Hobby. And it's just one.
Okay.
And I don't plan on doing any more anything like that. And it's strictly hobby. I don't sell the honey. In fact, I've never sold any honey. I've given it all away. But they're really interesting to watch and that, like on the porch and that, they do this little wiggle dance to communicate to each other and the different columns they're bringing in and that. And just one other kind of interesting thing is that, you know, like I said, I just bought them in here, but there's lots of bees in Cedar. I actually set up what you call a swarm trap. It's a special size box, and had probably about, was a whole swarm, and a swarm could be like about 10,000 bees move into it. Just, you know, without having a beehive, and that's happened 2 times here.
Split, another hive that's split.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they're in the city
Kind of clean off.
anyway. Yeah, they populate. Well, that's one good thing about a managed one, is that you can do an artificial split.
Right.
Where the wild ones, that happens, you know, 2 times now I've caught.
Well, and when the wild ones swarm where they want to be, they don't have a box that's all established in a spot, and they go find a
Well,
spot.
they go anywhere, and I provide them like the perfect home.
Right.
And then I actually gave them the guy in Lowell and started using that.
Right.
So
Thank you for your
they're
comment.
around here and okay, thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Everybody gets 4 minutes.
Yeah, you're a citizen. You live around the corner from me, I can verify.
Name and address.
Donna Franklin lives at 171 Spring Street also. If we do not provide a home for the bees, they could make a home for themselves in somebody's playhouse. So, yeah, so that's something more to consider.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. We have no public hearing, Mr. Womack?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. At this time, unless there's any modification to the adoption of the agenda, I would entertain that.
I can make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved second to adopt the agenda as printed. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mrs. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Grove?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Ms. Nixon?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Ms. all vote yes. Adoption of the agenda. Do we have a consent agenda?
We do not.
We'll move on to item 7, discussion items. Mr. Womack, item A.
Thank you. So, the Elm Street Garage mural is something that I've been kicking around for quite some time. This came up primarily through discussions with Mr. Hopkins and the 6-sided sign that we were attempting to install at the staging area. And I've ridden my bike and I've run coming north on the White Pine Trail. As a matter of fact, I did that today. And you do not have any indication that you were in the heart of Cedar Springs. We are very fortunate to own that garage. It's 9.5 feet tall, it's 60 feet wide, and I think it'd be a prime location for some kind of mural. So I presented a couple of options to you. The red flannel town logo, which from what I understand was the former city logo, the current city logo, and I think 3 or 4 generic logo options. This is a
The red flannel town logo is the one on the water tower.
correct.
So for those of you who might not. Oh.
And this would
So is
be,
it this one?
It'll be in our agenda packet. You can see
Okay.
some of the
yeah,
highlights.
this would be approximately page 7 on the agenda packet. The red flannel town is circular, it has the red flannel everywhere in the middle.
So this one?
Approximately, yes. So that is an option. Of course, below that one you see the current City of Cedar Springs logo, and then a couple of generic options. I actually really like the cursive scrawl in black that you see. I think that matches well with the other script you see in the city. Maybe we could do that in red surrounded by white, something to that effect. But I want to present these options to council for a couple of reasons. First of all, whether this is something that they would even like to pursue. Second of all, whether they had any indication about which one they would like to pursue, or whether they'd like to form a subcommittee to explore this option in greater detail. And then third, if you are all, I guess, in agreement that we should pursue this, I can then go out and explore further options of what kind of mural or what kind of lettering we could use and how much it would cost. And I can bring that back to council at that point. I will indicate also that the first one, the Red Flannel Town one, I believe, is owned and trademarked by the Red Flannel Festival.
Correct.
Now, I have had a discussion with Mr. Randy Van Dyne, who's the current president of that organization, and indicated to me that he would be willing to work with us to allow us to use that option if we decide to go that way. So I don't think that would be a large hurdle to overcome. But of course, I would want to do things as legally and protecting of the city as possible. So I'll leave it to you with that, with any discussion you'd like to have.
I put a lot of thought into this. This will probably upset some people, but if we put the Red Flannel logo on there, we're advertising indirectly or directly for a business. Then what do we do if we have other businesses come in and say, we want ours on there too? What do we do?
Have a response. Because I've also been thinking about that in our discussions when we were trying to come to an agreement about the Red Flannel Festival and all of that. That argument was presented to me. However, Mr. Clark, who unfortunately is here tonight to speak to this, had done some research and found that governments are allowed, in that context, they were allowed to do in-kind services to things that were considered cultural heritage. So no one actually gets paid at the Red Flannel Festival. That's in all volunteer work, and the only people who make money are the businesses that they contract with to put on this festival that the citizenry enjoys. So I would say that any business who is willing to not make any profit and not pay themselves is certainly welcome to come and put their logo up there too. But I don't know of any business any other business that exists that could make that money.
Very true. And if we get bombarded with businesses and merchants that want theirs on there, we're going to have to draw a hard line and say, no.
I think there's too many pressure wounds yet, too.
Can I follow up on this?
Yes.
There's a really easy legal distinction. Profit versus non-profit.
I agree
A
with the mayor.
business that makes money.
Excuse me,
Well, I'm sorry, I was just saying that's the line.
I agree with the mayor, okay? And that if we're going to do that some way, and one of the comments that I had with the city manager was that perhaps they would be willing to help pay for it. And I'm sure the brewery, perhaps Perry's Place or anybody else might be willing to help pay to put it up. Unfortunately, because of what did happen in the past, it's not so much the face of the community anymore that it used to be. There was nobody that was any more upset about the whole situation than I was when it went the direction it did. Being with the fire department, we had designed a patch that had the red flannels on it and displayed some pride in the community. When we were ordered to take them off, the fire department then had to go back and redesign and buy new patches. I agree with Mr. Hopkins. There are a lot of wounds yet that are still out there. Even before this happened, there was a lot of people that couldn't stand seeing the wooden ones in because there were people from the outside that had moved in and didn't understand the heritage. So, and there was people who would call for having them removed from the poles. So, I personally could not see myself voting for that one to be one of them. If I had a preference, I would preference the new logo. It is decorative, it is showy, and it does set our spread out forward now the same as it does any letterhead or anything else that we send out. That's my comments.
Okay. And we'll go,
Was,
we'll hit Mrs. Powell, then I'll go back and forth.
Okay. Just about doing the whole side of the barn in general, we're setting ourselves up for putting up an expensive, whatever it is, have somebody come in and tagging it. Mike and I have talked about this. It would be better if we had something that was attached to the building and it could be taken off if it was damaged, and we could repair it without a huge expense. And my feeling about what's going to go on, and I've thought for this for 3 years now, welcome to the city of Cedar Springs. End of discussion. No logos, no huge expense, no arguments. You're in the city of Cedar Springs. Welcome. And so at least people, and we've heard this, coming down the tracks, is this Rockford? You know, what's the name of this town? So it would be nice to have anything down there that said, welcome to the city of Cedar Springs.
Mr. Alpin.
I half agree with her on having something that is removable, because I was thinking that if you did some sort of a banner that you could attach that side that didn't flap in the wind so much, it'd be easier than trying to draw a mural on the material that's there. Because you're gonna, it'd be rough to get anything other than a very generic style on there without it looking rough. You try to get any really good graphics on there, it's just not gonna look good. I like the logo we got there with, that we're currently using on our letterhead and stuff like that. You can, have on a banner with that and have welcome to Cedar Springs. Or have a sign that's tacked to the side of the building. Or sometimes they may just be just as cheap to have a sign put on there as to have a mural done. I like murals though, but that kind of a wall,
Doesn't
it's
really,
gonna,
not conducive.
right.
one more short.
4 minutes, so. Ms. Conley.
Well, just, first off, the banners sound more expensive to me. Downtown Grand Rapids, they paint them on the sides of big buildings because it's cheaper. I mean, that's why they do it that way. I don't understand the idea that if we put something on and attach it, it will get destroyed faster based on weather and snow and what have you than paint on building. That's, from the people that I know that do that down in Kendall, on the buildings in Grand Rapids, that's why they do it the way they do it. Now, I'm not opposed to a cheaper, better option. I just don't know, unless someone has some numbers for me, that's not my understanding of what's cheaper. And what,
We're proposing whether we want to go forward with this and what.
right, but when I'm hearing the discussion about we should put up something that attaches to the building as opposed to a mural,
Okay, cool.
I just don't know that it's cheaper. Like, I would actually want to see those numbers. And then secondly, I like the red flannels. I didn't grow up here, but I know the construct of good marketing. I don't work in town, I work out of town, and I have people ask me about it all the time. That being said, if that's how y'all feel, then I would be very willing to go along with the Welcome to Cedar Springs. I don't want a different logo. I did not vote for another logo. I'm fine with Welcome to Cedar Springs. But I think we need to figure out we're Red Flannel Town. That's just my take on it. But whatever. I will of the council. But beyond it, I would love to see some big, colorful. I think it'd be fabulous.
Till some tags on your.
You all set?
Put it up high.
Mrs. Dixon, okay. Go right ahead.
So I could compromise because I see the point about the red flannel logo. I think at some point in the future, that'll be the way to go. But I could compromise for that. But as for the city's current logo, I gotta tell you, I have some hard feelings about that too. So I would be good with Welcome to the City of Cedar Springs. But as for our current logo being on the side of that building, I could not support it.
I agree, I think the City of Cedar Springs logo on there, and maybe we should look at seeing how much we can get let's say a sign painted and then attach it to the building, get that cost, and what it would cost just to paint that on the side of the building. I kinda agree with a couple of the others that the corrugated building, you know, you're gonna have a hard time reading the letters unless you're standing looking right at it. From an angle, some of the letters will get chopped out. Maybe in the future, things are better, we could even add the old red flannel logo underneath it. That's something down the road.
Sure.
So, yes, Mr.
One more quick contact. If we're going to look at something to be attached, I do know from working in the aluminum framing for signage business for quite some time, there are those that you can attach and would have replaceable vinyl faces.
Yeah.
And that may be something you want to take a look at. And you have to do some cost checking. But if you chose in 2 years to change it, you peel the face off, put a new vinyl on, and there's a clipping system that
Yes.
you do with.
Similar to what
And
you're saying.
it would be maybe in 2 years red flannels would be it.
There you go.
Maybe in 2 years there's something else that we would just soon have.
Somebody
You
else.
get it printed up with vinyl. Most of your billboards and so forth, a lot of business signs are all made out of this vinyl now.
You know, you see them along the expressway, they like a vinyl silk screen and they put a big panel up. And to change periodically. This wouldn't be all that big, you know, that may be the ultimate, but we could definitely have a check into it. We all pretty much agreed the City of Cedar Springs.
Yeah, welcome to.
That was gonna be my next question to council.
I like the script.
Yeah.
Much better
Yeah.
than the block than we had.
I heard the welcome to City of Cedar Springs, but there's two of them, and I also didn't know whether you guys wanted me to use the script one and change it to welcome to City of Cedar
The
Springs.
curse.
I like
This one, they're mine closed.
Everybody here kind of agreed the script
The
was
script
best.
is nicer, yeah.
Although in 5 years, some kids won't even know what cursive is. But
Yes.
Well, you know, listen, that's not my gig tonight.
It's all right. I guess we're all agreed that we'll have Manager Womack proceed to get some numbers on welcome to City of Cedar Springs. How's that sound?
I think that'd be good, and you could check out a banner with, you know, what we,
Yeah, I'd love to see the price difference.
I'll bring a lot of options. I just
Cool.
wanted to know which direction we were headed.
roughly a banner for the size of what goes across the catwalk, crosswalk, whatever you want to call it, about 300.
Yep.
I also wanted to make it look classy and enduring.
Yeah,
Sure. Yes.
So I will explore some options and bring it back to council when I'm able.
Sounds wonderful.
Okay, no further discussion, and moving on to B, Mr. Womack.
Thank you. Pedestrian crosswalk signs. I believe I brought this to you guys last month, and I wanted to just show you where we were going to start with. I understand Ms. Nixon had some opinions about putting them on the two streets in between, but for the time being, I just wanted to start with this Ash Street immediately north of City Hall, and also at Maple Street on the north end of town. We're going to put crosswalk signs on both sides of the road. And I'm just a little afraid that it's going to be gaudy looking if we start putting them on every single corner. So I want to put them up, give it a little time, see what people think of it, see if it slows traffic down.
The W2 or W11 too sign?
Yeah,
That's
the walk. I've been calling it the walking man sign, so
Yeah.
we'll go with W11 too.
that's
But also it'll have the arrow that's directly beneath it on page 13.
yep.
And I'm going to have it on
Should
both
be a
sides,
36, 7 feet.
both sides of the road, facing in both directions.
Very good.
To start,
So we'll start there, and then there are two streets in between that if we find is working for us, we can put them on those streets as well.
we probably have a total cost of about $75 a pop for each sign.
I do have an estimated cost here, and it is $75 for two signs, not including, I think, the labor. Is that right? No, I apologize. 65, so it's 125 for 2 signs, not including the waiver. But after discussing this matter with Mr. LaRose, I think we can cut out some of the labor costs because we have the decorative light poles. And if we can just do a banding system instead of installing the actual posts, I think that'll save some money. So unless I hear objection, I will proceed with that plan.
Anybody?
Excellent.
Sounds like you got it going.
The clock tower inscription, Red Flannel Town, requested by Ms. Powell. I will leave it to you.
On behalf of the CBDT, I'm here to ask the city, us, the CBDT would like to have the words Red Flannel Town. We don't have it all perfected yet, but this is the beginning. On the clock tower, below the clocks, there's a fairly wide space. Red Flannel Town honors our veterans. So exactly how it would be put on there, we haven't gotten that far. I've talked to Red Flannel Festival, and they are accepting of it, and they do want to see a plan about how it would look and what it would say, which is okay. So, you know, in my thoughts, I was thinking, well, will the American Legion, who's involved with this clock tower, be okay with having Red Flannel Town on the Veterans Clock Tower? Oh, yeah, that's great. These veterans came from Red Flannel Town. This is Red Flannel Town. So they're taking a straw vote there, and when we can present the actual, what it's actually going to say, then they will vote on it as a Legion. The Red Flannel Board will vote on it, but they certainly are enthused about it too. They just want to make sure it's looking good. And CBDT, everybody, we have the month off of July, so hopefully by August we can get this all together, get all these boards to vote on it, and hopefully have it up there by Red Flannel Day. So that's my thought on that.
Anybody have any dissent on that?
Anything that we have that's gonna be turned over to the city that's gonna have Red Flannel Town on it, we should have it in writing that it's kosher.
That will be, anything that we have to have their approval
Yes.
of has to be.
Yeah.
They had to approve it.
I mean, anything that we're setting out and saying, okay, can we do this? Ultimately, it's our decision whether it happens or not. It shouldn't, in the past, okay, prior to everything that happened, you never had to worry about it. The idea that it's such a problem now,
Well, I think
or it was,
yeah, with Mr.
let's not go
Womack,
back to it.
with Mr. Womack's here, I'm sure everything will be in legal order.
I'm extremely cautious in my dealings with Red Flannel Festival. Not that I dislike driving, but I'd like to protect the city. That's my job. So anything that is done would certainly have everybody's approval and signature.
And that's how we intend to proceed.
Any dissents from the council?
Oh, yes. Just a caveat. I would just say that I absolutely would need the American Legion's approval.
Yes.
I feel
Absolutely.
that's,
Well, you have a lot of people that.
well, I understand, but if it's honoring veterans, we need to make sure that they are okay with this and that we're not stepping on their toes.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Like you said, they're doing a straw poll. They
Sure.
should pick it to them first.
And I guess, along with this, if I may, how does this fit in with across the street? Because that was determined to be a veterans park also. How are we linking the two of these together?
By the Legion signing off on it, I think that in itself is a plus. They embrace that plus our memorial park.
Okay.
So,
They seem to be on board with the clock tower, and, you know, they're very enthusiastic about it, so.
Isn't there a plan to actually physically link them at some point in the future?
Well, it is a park.
But no, isn't there
there's a sidewalk
There's a-
that's to go in
right,
to cross over so they can commute both sides.
there's supposed to be, I mean, they don't have the money and whatever yet, but the plan is to eventually have an overhead crosswalk
I never heard
Okay,
that.
I think you're getting them mixed up.
Am I?
You're not thinking of the clock tower.
Okay.
That's at the corner of Maple and Main. You're
Right.
thinking of both sides of the creek over there by Oak
Oh, by
Street.
the veterans?
But that is, from what I understand, is we're gonna see something of that in the next few months.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
envisioning a lot of that now, and anything could happen, but
Well, maybe I was confused, but I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
remember
think-
Kurt, when we were talking about the Veterans Clock Tower and where it would be, in relationship to the Veterans Park, there was a discussion of making it actually connect.
They're a block apart.
there'd be a walkway in the back of the library.
That's my understanding.
That's in, this is not paid.
Right,
But that's things to be worked out.
but I mean, I thought that was the question, how do they connect?
Yeah, kind of.
People that work hard to create the Memorial Park.
Okay, Brown fence.
Exactly. And all those people volunteered to put their work into that. Okay. I don't want them to feel set aside simply because they're now dedicating this as a Veterans Memorial when that was generated to be a memorial to veterans.
Right.
That would be communication they should have possibly.
And the Brown family has actually donated and to the
Additional.
memorial, clock
Then
memorial.
there's the connection. That's what I was wondering, how we were connected.
I was gonna say, I thought
That's
that
fine.
was part of it, when they were talking about how to make that trail piece with the sidewalk, I thought that was, because weren't the Browns at that city council meeting?
Yes,
When they bought that piece of property next to the park,
yes.
and they were donating it as a piece of it?
And they have raised several $1,000s to improve that property. So.
Right. But I mean, I seem to recall that being part of the community building development piece when they were looking at that Veterans Memorial Clock.
Okay, we're getting a little off track, but.
Well, no, I was just trying to answer Mr. Gross's question about, like, I don't think he
If I
was,
could make one comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Powell, have you been in contact with the Red Flannel Festival to see if they're also on board with this?
Yes, I went to their meeting last week, and I presented it to them, and then I talked to Randy today, and he says they're all for it, but they want to actually see what we intend to do before they actually vote on,
They'd like to prove it.
yeah.
The reason I'm asking is because I don't see this as any different than using the Red Flannel logo on the side of the garage. I'd want everybody to sign a piece of paper saying everybody's okay with it.
Right.
Because this will be city property.
It will be, yes. That's why I want all these three entities to be copacetic.
Okay. Any other, before we move on to action items? Hearing none. Number 8, radar speed sign. Mr. Woolman.
Thank you. So we've been extremely fortunate and lucky that we have Sergeant Kelly working out of our office. He's been doing a great job about putting us at the front of the line to get the radar sign. And I've gone through his speed trap a number of times. And the red and blue lights will let me know what speed I'm going. Thankfully, I think I'm doing the speed limit by the time I hit the sign. Anyways, based on my observations of how other drivers react to the sign, I'm firmly convinced that people want to do the speed limit. They just sometimes forget what the speed limit is, and they forget what their actual speed is because they're not looking at their speedometer. So I think a speed radar sign is very effective in calming traffic down, and it goes along with my intention to make the city extremely safe for pedestrians. We receive phone calls on a regular basis, at least once a week, from citizens who indicate that cars are speeding up and down their street, Oak Street, Main Street, West Street, all over the city. So I asked Mr. LaRose of the DPW department to do some research for me. We're presenting 3 options to you. I would not recommend the Global Industries option. They've been extremely reluctant to communicate with us, in particular regarding the mounting hardware. They wouldn't give us a price, and it's not included. So I would ask you to consider either the A, traffic calm, or C, radar sign options. As you can see, the traffic calm option is $1,785. The radar sign is $3,165. The traffic calm option's biggest problem is that it does not have removable batteries. So we would have to dismount that sign from wherever it was located at least once every 2 weeks, bring it into the DPW garage, charge it for 24 hours, and then they'd have to go and put that sign back down.
Oh, that seems problematic.
And while I do want the sign to be mobile, I don't necessarily want to be forced to have it mobile every 2 weeks.
No.
The radar sign TC400, on the other hand, while it's about $1,300 more expensive, does have removable batteries, and it is overall, I would say, more robust. It does come with an for lack of a better word, bashing shield. So if you were to take a baseball bat to it, if you were to take a baseball bat to it, it should survive. I didn't
Is
say-
that a thing?
For anyone following at home, that is not a challenge.
Apparently, it is a thing. Hopefully not in our city.
Okay.
And so for that reason, I think Mr. LaRose, at the DPW department, would prefer option C.
I look at that, and it will operate for 14 days before charge.
Well, on the $1,300, what's the average DPW's man-hour cost?
I think with all of your benefits included, it ranges between about 25 and 40 bucks an hour.
And so you're gonna eat up at least half an hour to an hour from changing that battery. It's not gonna take very many hours to make up that $1,300 difference that you're,
Well,
if you went with the cheaper route.
the nice thing about the battery changing is you can swap in and out in less than 5 minutes.
Right, he's talking about the other one.
Versus if you had to take the whole system,
Yeah.
you'll need that $1,300 in man labor up
And,
in a season.
yeah, I was gonna say in the summer.
I would entertain a motion on purchase of one of these two items.
I'll make a motion to approve the radar sign TC-400 at $31.65.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to purchase the TC 400 from
Radar.
Radar Sign. Any discussion?
I just have a question. Does this
Go ahead.
mount to our existing poles, or is it on its own stand?
Yeah, so the nice thing about the radar sign one, and I guess I didn't touch on this, is it comes with a universal mounting bracket.
Okay.
And so, it's hard to describe. It's basically a metal plate that fits on the back of it with a couple of screw holes in it. And so it gives the DPW department the option to either put some bands around it so you can put on the light poles, or they can just put it right into the,
Pole.
all the U groove or C groove holes that are out there. And so we can put it on any light pole or any speed sign, any children playing sign that we have in the
Alright.
city.
And the budget, what we have left allows for only one?
Thank you for asking.
I was saying,
I know where it's coming from.
So I had Ms. Falcon identify some of the available balance that we had left over from this year's budget. And she didn't go through it with a fine comb. She just identified some of the larger funds that we have not spent or for some reason were created but never have been used so far in this budget year. And we have approximately $45,000 left over.
Oh,
This money will come out of the education fund for council members at the end of the year.
Well, we have a couple options.
that saves you money every day.
And so unless council has an objection, I'll leave it to Ms. Falcon to determine where the money comes from. But the city council did have $10,000 in their education and training expense, and we've only used about $2,000 of that, so there's $7,900. The city attorney, we've saved $16,000 there.
Thank God.
I wonder how we did that.
We have a couple of capital expenses.
This is why we need the city manager.
In the general administration budget where we have $16,000 left over, so we are on comfortable financial grounds to
We have
purchase.
two. Did you make the motion? Can we amend it to two?
I guess I wasn't asking for two.
Let's see how this one does, and then you can...
Okay, all right.
Well, I appreciate your enthusiasm.
We can spend it on the next time.
Okay.
Is there
Can I just make one final comment, Mr. Mayor? Thank you so much for all this signage and all of this concerns about improving safety for our citizens. When you came on board, that was a major issue of most of us on this council that had really gotten pushed to the back burner because there were so many other, what felt like not actually as important, but not as at the front things to be dealt with. And thank you so much for putting this to the front and helping us make our city safer. It's really critical.
I'd like to say I'm doing it solely and purely to make things safe, and I partially am, but I also anticipate and see the city growing. The Gun Tavern has an offer on it that might turn into a restaurant at some point. And if that's the case, we're going to have two, I suspect, highly popular restaurants on opposite sides of the street. And I have a large window in my office, and I observe people all day, every day, running across the street right in front of City Hall, and giant trucks, going 5, 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. And so, in fact, I saved a puppy from being run over the other day in front of City Hall. And so, I don't want that on my conscience, first of all, but I also want it so that people feel comfortable and safe being in downtown, so they can boost our economy. So it's a slightly pragmatic thing.
Well, I appreciate it.
No further comment on a roll call vote for this
One
purchase?
quick one, only this question. Any possibility of price break? It never was approached, probably. But
Yeah.
And if it's not, that's fine. 'Cause I agree with it. But, and the other one, once you get them, could we entertain the idea of seeing if we could make them mobile by attaching them to the trailer where it could be moved from point to point?
They are mobile. They can be moved pretty quickly. We actually had the option to look at ones that can be put on a dolly, but we decided against it because we want something that could be put on the main street and left there for a significant period of time while not looking tacky.
I guess what I was getting at was because you had mentioned, and sorry, I didn't mean to drag it out, you had mentioned West Street, Second Street, Oak Street, several streets that you had had, so we haven't done anything to remind people on those streets at this point in time, but then with regards to them.
Yeah.
And that's where one of the ones that would be on a dollar would be beneficial to us all. But that can be looked at later.
Well, it can be mounted on any sign, anywhere, and we can install a sign pretty much anywhere. But you're right, that's a good option, and the DPW guys are excellent at this kind of stuff. So if we wanted to, we could purchase a dolly and put it right out there on the dolly.
Maybe our next one could be set up that way, if you're out to
To go to a variety of side streets.
I know we tried for a long time to not have this city plagued with signs, but is there any way that we could, there really isn't any speed limit signs on the back street, right?
Yes.
There is, right?
There's a speed limit sign in my yard.
Oh, they all ignore it. Nobody goes.
I understand that, but there's one in my yard.
I'm just wondering, maybe it's something you
If Mr. Hopkins would like to help me identify some locations, I'm sure we can put some more signs up.
There's a state law that says any residential area is 25 miles an hour, and that's over the field. Otherwise, unless otherwise posted.
well, state law says you stop for pedestrians too.
I have a bent stop sign from where someone ran into it.
Okay, I'm gonna call for a roll here. Mrs. Conlon,
Yes.
what was that?
Yes.
Mr. Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Nixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Powell.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall votes yes. We got on time.
Woohoo!
Item B, Memorial Park Pavilion.
So, pavilion rental. We have had a significant number of phone calls over the last month or two of people wanting to rent the pavilion. I was not aware of this, but the pavilion's new in the last year or so.
Yeah, I got the ribbon on it.
Um,
The mayor and I did.
Unfortunately, I wasn't here at that time, so I didn't know that.
You were just not here.
Okay, well, just not here, Nicole still wasn't here.
Yes.
But in any case, the current policy, and you didn't have a city manager at the time, but the current policy is we don't accept pavilion rental arrangements, so that we've been telling people the first person to show up gets to have it.
Mm.
Now, that's not the best working plan. Unfortunately, we are already partially through the season, and since we've already told a number of people that we can't rent it, I didn't want to take a step back and say, well, now you can, and all the people who haven't called us or we don't have contact information for, they're out of luck. So what I'd like to do, either towards the end of this season, maybe late August, September, or for the new year, set up a policy to rent that pavilion, and I present it to council for the dollar amount, probably in the range of $20 to $50, depending on what council wants to do. Which kind of leads me to the second part, and that is the electricity at Morley Park. So, unbeknownst to me, and it was pointed out to me, the electricity is actually nowhere near the pavilion.
Yeah, no.
And so I went out and I looked, and it is a significant distance, 200, 250 feet. And so I think the assumption is, by everybody, like it was for me, that the electricity is actually at the pavilion.
Oh.
And so we do, and this is kind of a quandary of how things have been set up here. Apparently we do allow people to rent the electricity at Morley Park.
Yeah.
And the assumption is, I would guess, that the electricity is available at the pavilion for plugging in your hot plates and that kind of stuff. So what I'd like to do is A, set up a rental arrangement for next year, and B, run electricity from its current location to the pavilion. Now, because I didn't have a lot of time on this just came up this week. I was able to get 2 quotes for you, and I apologize about that. The quote from High Point 1770 is actually pretty good. I did talk with the DPW department about whether they'd be able to do this themselves. They indicated they could, but they'd have to wait until autumn when things slow down for them. And when I asked them how much it would cost, they indicated it would probably be about $1,500 just in materials. So I think that's a good deal, and I would ask that you adopt, a motion to approve of that. Sorry.
I suggest another one, colored electric.
Well, I didn't have time to get that. If we want to approve some amount less than, we could seek out a third quote, and if it's lower than 1770, we could approve that. But also, Mr. Tom Noreen stopped in to see me this morning. He saw our special meeting in the Post, and he indicated to me that the Rotary had approximately $250 that they would be happy and willing to donate to the city to complete this task. So the actual amount will be about $250 less.
Okay, what's the will of the council?
Can I ask a question?
After you make the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a electrical budget of $1,770 or less.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded to provide electricity to the pavilion from High Point for $1,770, not to exceed.
I think the
Well, the
motion
motion didn't include High Point, the motion included Dr. C.
Okay, not to exceed.
In case he gets the third one that's less.
Now, discussion, Mr. Powell.
The DPW apparently will have to trend, the DPW will do it?
No,
Whoever does it, we dig a trench.
I was just wondering, does our DPW license electrical, can we do that? For your, it's going to be open to the public, but it's not a simple license. That was my own question.
Any other comment, Ms. Nixon?
always
Oh,
comment.
good.
So,
4 minutes.
I have no experience, good or bad, with High Point Electric. I cannot, they may be wonderful, they may not, I have no experience. What I will say is Art is master electricians, and they work on my house, because I don't want it to burn down. And I would, when it comes to electricity, I want to see references. If High Point can provide them, great. But if not, I know it's more, but
Do you have anything to do with the library or something? No, Hillard Electric did too. They donated that electrical pole we used for putting up that concert last summer, and that's what they've, moved it from the clubroom to most of the summer.
My point is actually like a company.
Well, all right, I mean, I guess if they have the certifications and the insurance, I'm good with it.
Just any other comment?
One question, up to it, please. Arcs was a little bit more detailed as far as 100 amp, how many outlets are they going to put in and so forth.
Yep.
I don't see other than receptacles, the 11 group CI, sorry. Were these comparable to the best group?
I asked Mr. LaRose to get comparable quotes. I think his biggest expense, of course, is running the line the entire distance of 200 plus feet.
Yeah,
I
that's what I'm
think
thinking.
if we were happy with it, or we want to extend it further, it would be significantly cheaper to add on to at that point. But I did ask Mr. LaRose to get comparable quotes.
Because I noticed they were indicating a panel also, which means they're probably has breakers or something there at the pavilion. And
Yeah, they're
so
not.
it's just curious.
Yeah, they're Arc Electric would be installing a 8-circuit ring type panel.
Right, and that's where they were a little more specific.
And High Point is putting a duplex in, which would be a 4 plug-in with GFI. So you're just going to have a plug-in versus
A box.
a breaker panel. And
So would this electrical, all that be all locked up like the one down there, so, you know, not everybody in town's.
yeah, they would
Oh, no, it's
be
kind of
controlled. They would be controlled at the main panel.
You can do it a couple different ways. You can have it shut off back at the entry point, so it's just not live
These
until.
aren't comparable.
Okay, well, if council would like to see the Arc Electric bid, there's no reason you can't, I guess, withdraw the motion or vote against the motion and vote for the Arc Electric one instead.
Well, we didn't put a name on
We
it, right?
just put a dollar amount.
We just gave a dollar amount and.
Maybe it would be to withdraw the motion and come back with another quote from High Point, similar to Arc Electric, or have Arc Electric submit a quote similar to High Point. I guess we need to decide how much power do we want at that pavilion.
Well,
You know, 100 amp is a very large service there.
I'd
Yeah,
like to
that's
withdraw
like-
this motion until we get maybe the one more motion. Who did you suggest, Perry?
Hillard.
Ask them to, and we don't have to expedite this, really, do we?
No,
Well, the reason that we called this meeting today was so that the money could come out of last year's budget.
Oh, for this?
So starting on July 1st, we'd have to use next year's budget.
But couldn't we just earmark the money for it today without
Yeah.
necessarily
So what you
allocating?
could do is earmark the money, which I
Earmark.
think is good for 60 days
Yeah.
after today. But I'd ask you to earmark a particular amount of money.
Sure.
So you could, if you want.
So if we said not to exceed $2,400.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say, maybe if we
Or
earmark
give
it.
them 25 just in case with sometime between now and then the price goes up.
Right, but we've got 250 coming from the Rotary.
what we
So,
would need to
I
do,
will, reverse my
you would withdraw your second.
withdrawal.
And you will withdraw your motion?
I did the motion, she did the second, Pat. Or,
I didn't.
I didn't give a second.
Oh, maybe I did.
yeah, you did.
I withdraw.
Okay, we'll start from scratch. We would set aside monies to run power to the pavilion not to exceed,
What would be an amount, Mr. Womack, that you think would be appropriate based on the amount we have left in the budget that you would like to
Well,
have set aside?
Arcs Electric, and so here's my difficulty. And maybe we should appoint Mr. Hall to be a consultant on this so that he can identify what amount of power he'd like to see at the pavilion. The council's comfortable with that.
Certainly.
I'm not an electricity guy myself. I'll do plumbing, because plumbing won't kill me.
I should have looked this over better than I did not.
Yeah, 100 amp service is like my garage.
So I apologize. Mr. LaRose did indicate he was having a hard time getting some of these quotes.
Yeah.
Apparently, the economy's good and people are busy.
Absolutely.
So, maybe what would be appropriate is to amend the motion to not to exceed $2,400 and identify Mr. Hall as a consultant for the DPW department so that they can get the amount that we want there for the price that we want.
Okay, so I will make a motion to set aside $2,400 out of this budget for electrifying the pavilion in Morley Park.
Second.
And
Would you like a separate motion to, I will make or I will add on to that, I will add on to that motion that Mr. Hall do some investigating on what the electrical requirements should be for that facility.
And council would agree to go along with whatever he decides.
Yes. That would be part of that motion.
I'm not thinking you're gonna need a lot.
Do I have a
being
second?
I second.
Okay.
Well,
Wait a minute.
Harry has already seconded.
Oh, we got two motions going on.
No.
Well, I was adding it to the motion.
And then Harry would need to accept it.
Okay, so
And
do
you will accept that. Okay, any further discussion?
Mostly what they'd be using at the pavilion is like crack pots and stuff like that, you know. Where they'd be doing bands is over by the open space, because the pavilion's in a good spot for any bands or anything that they'd be needing.
Absolutely.
although heating, cooking things draw more than you think.
I'll get back with everybody who mentioned Womax and Mr. LaRose.
But you don't need a hundred.
Okay, roll call. Ms. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Groves,
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins,
Yes.
Ms. Nixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Hall votes yes. My fault, I didn't look over this until we started, and I started reading what we
Yeah, I
want here. and-
Looking at that placebo.
Being that we've got plenty of electricals around, and if you've got time, I would really like to
That's
see
not a
a third
problem.
one.
Although we need a better idea of what it is we need.
Right.
They're not all giving us
The same quote.
right for the same thing. So
That's what I realized, that these
Yeah.
quotes were two separate.
so we really need to figure out what we need and then ask each of these companies to tell us what it would cost.
All
And I apologize, I was on a short time frame.
No, of course.
Not a problem, we got the money.
There's no fault found here, it was just, I want to make sure that
Do it
I didn't
right.
see them as being equal, so.
Do them right. Okay, moving on, item C, motion to approve the library service agreement, grant area district. Mr. Romax, will you?
Yep, I did bring this to you at your last meeting. This is the one that we were waiting for the township to act on. Apparently, they acted on it and just let us know a day or two ago. So I apologize for the late ad on this as well. It's what I wrote, it's what I provided to the township, and apparently they passed it.
So we're all good now.
So we are adding 15 people to the library district, and we are getting approximately $50 more per year.
Cool.
I motion to approve the library service agreement, Grand Area District Division.
Second.
Who wants to second?
It doesn't matter.
I'll take it.
Molly can have
I
it.
don't think I've seconded anything, I'll take that one.
There you did.
I did? Okay.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Ms. Powell,
Yes.
Ms. Nixon,
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mr. Grove,
Yes.
Ms. Conley,
Yes.
and then Ms. Hall votes yes. Communications, Madam Clerk.
There are none.
Woohoo.
Moving on to department reports. Seeing as how we only have two here, so we'll have the manager's report.
Well, I will bring a report from the finance director, if you don't mind. So I did list two things in my departmental report: tree removal policy and beekeeping. Don't want to discuss this with council because we don't have all the parties present. I just wanted to make you informed and ask you to look into it between now and the July 13th meeting. Tree removal policy is going to come up twice in the near future. The first one is a dead tree located on 17/Muskegon Road. We haven't been able to identify whether it's in private property or the city's right of way, but we are fearful that it would be detrimental to the city's roads if it were to fall at some point, so we're going to investigate whether we want to remove it or not. That's the lesser of the two concerns. The bigger concern is a very large tree that is located on the city right away, but it's in somebody's front yard and that person wants